Good morning and welcome to what can only be described as a very, very wet Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya for the penultimate weekend of the 2019 GT Cup Open Europe Championship. Well, the saying goes that the rain in Spain mainly falls on the plain. Not here, it doesn't. It actually falls on Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, and as you can see, the weather conditions are absolutely treacherous out there. Lots of standing water. And the cars that are heading out are really having to tiptoe around on even full wet tyres. You can see on the right-hand side the Lamborghini of one of the championship leaders, Hans-Peter Koller, and also joining him on circuit are the two Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren GT4s. Also out on track as well, there's another one of the Porsches as well, so a few cars out on circuit. And these guys, of course, this is only their sighting lap to get out on the circuit. They haven't even got around to ready up at turn 6, and one of the Teo Martin McLarens is already off the road, and they hit into the throw. Also thunder, there is lightning around the area as well. This is indeed very, very tricky conditions, as you can see. Cars even going off on the outlap this weekend. So there is the Carlo Curti Porsche, and that car again, there was already a yellow flag at turn 6, but there you can see more cars trying to trickle around. This is Hans-Peter Koller at the wheel, and just behind there is Thiago Vivacqua with the and so you can already see there that Thiago Vivacqua's McLaren is trundling back round to the pit lane. Now, how much damage will have been sustained remains to be seen, but we'll have a look and see if there's any kind of replay that will come up to see exactly how that worked, but it happened pretty much in live time. Now, Hans-Peter Koller, despite the fact he's got a several hundred horsepower Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo, has been a little bit smart and be able to try and keep the car on the areas of the circuit that have the least amount of standing water. Just about see them through the rain, and there is some thunder in the air. I can hear from outside the commentary box, and Hans will be on the off the racing line. You can see here, this is the replay. Vivacqua's car is off the racing line, onto the wet part of the circuit, over the curb, and in that situation, you are just a passenger. And I think Vivacqua genuinely, I think this is obviously well known, but he wouldn't have intended to make that mistake at all. I know that sounds obvious, but that's the number 13 Porsche. That's the Joan Viñez car, just showing how much standing water there is, and also how much rain there is coming down in the air. And that's also showing just how much standing water there is on the circuit. That will be at the final chicane. And the amount of water that's been falling there, getting through. That's the number 7 car. That's Thiago Vivacqua. So the car that went off, my apologies, we had the wrong graphic. It was actually Faust Salom's car that went off the road. There is Faust. And that's the damage. The sort of front end of that car has got the front splitter hanging off. And it has made it into the pit lane. I'm just looking outside of my commentary box window. It is making its way towards the Teo Martin garage. I can also say that splashing its way through the pit lane, quite literally, is Hans-Peter Koller's Lamborghini, and he's got through round in one piece. So there you can see just how serious the weather conditions are this morning. And you can see how much standing water gets thrown up, even at a slow speed. And one has to wonder if these weather conditions might be a little more disruptive than first thought. As you can see, Carlo Curti's car is being recovered. And you'd have to say, even looking outside my commentary box window, I can see the rain is falling incredibly heavily out there. And we have had flashes of lightning, we've had plenty of rumbles of thunder. It is weather conditions that sometimes are not the brightest to drive in. Carlo Curti's Porsche has been dragged down to the gravel, and he will gingerly make his way through the standing water and through the spray and through the rain back to the pit lane, and he will hope that he manages to get back without having any more escapades off into the gravel trap or further afield. And thanks to the hard-working marshals and volunteers around the circuit for being able to recover him that quickly. So there you can see very tentatively making his way through. Now, whatever damage the car has will be on the left-hand side, driver's left-hand side, because that's where he got the contact from Faust Salom. A few more cars heading into pit lane as the marshals try to clear up the damage. I think that must be some damage from possibly the side of Carlo Curti's car, because it was the left-hand side that got hit. So that's a piece of trim that either he'll take back to the pits or he might take away for himself as a souvenir. Either way, the marshals have got some work to do to clear up the gravel trap, and so have we here. And this will mean that we are on tenterhooks to see exactly how we resolve qualifying this morning, because, of course, the session's barely started. It's 17 minutes and 47 seconds left to go, and no one has set even a competitive time. They've set sort of times in sectors 1, 2, and 3, but remember, the cars were going off and struggling around on their out lap, never mind any hot laps. So as the rain does continue to fall, and I'll be honest, looking out of the commentary box window, I can't see it abating that much, really. I mean, weather conditions here, I mean, if you want to imagine Spanish Grand Prix 1996, maybe sort of imagine weather conditions to that effect, but maybe not as much standing, but even a little bit more standing water than when we had back then. I mean, I remember there's not many times I've seen personally Barcelona this wet. Only 2 times I've probably seen it in history, probably the 2 Spanish Grand Prix where it was incredibly wet back in 1992 and 1996. But apart from that, it's usually, and I say the word usually, quite bright sunshine and clear skies, as it was yesterday. All the way through yesterday, it was wonderful sunshine, nice and bright and warm, temperatures in the mid-20s, clear blue skies, not a cloud in sight. But how the weather can change in the space of around 24 hours. Well, I think I'm pleased to say, looking outside the commentary box window, that the Carlo Curti Porsche should be making its way into pit lane any second now, because I did see it going through the last couple of corners through the chicane. And we should be seeing him on the road. Whilst we're waiting to see exactly what the fate of the session will be, let's have a quick glance at where we are coming into the weekend in terms of the points. So Hans-Peter Koller comes into the weekend, as just to confirm, the Carlo Curti Porsche is indeed coming to pit lane, so thankfully he has made it through without any further escapades. So Hans-Peter Koller and Niki Luttweiler lead the way tied on points, but it's Hans-Peter Koller who's on top, given the virtue that he's actually won 4 races so far this season. He took a victory on his own at Paul Ricard. Then he didn't make it to didn't finish the second race, it looks like, at Paul Ricard, didn't make it to Spa-Francorchamps or score any points there. And then it was a victory in the second place at the Hungaroring, and then a double victory last time out at Silverstone. So even though he's level on points with Niki, the virtue that he's got 4 wins to Niki's 1, Niki's 1 coming in the first race at Spa, means that he leads the way on 72 points. Glauco Solieri is third with 63, and he has 2 wins to his name, 1 at Paul Ricard and 1 at Spa-Francorchamps. Edoardo Liberati, who is very quickly making his progress up the order, he's now 4th on 57 points, and that comes from his 3 wins in the second place, all of which were partnering Hans-Peter Koller. JP Mauro and Rodolfo Toni, who are in the second of the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghinis, are 5th in the points on 54, and their best results have been 2 second places at Paul Ricard. 6th is John de Wilde, who's one of our solo runners, like Solieri and others. He sits 6th in the points. His best results have been 2 second places at Spa. Then it's Marcio Basso and Guillaume Salas, who are racing this weekend, but not in GT Cup. They're in, where are the cars? So it looks as though, by the looks of things, what I'm being told in my ear, that possibly weather conditions, as they're not getting any better, the session may well be put on hold for a while. So until then, hopefully once we have news of what's happening or when we move on to the next session, we'll certainly let you know. But weather conditions here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, I think saying less than ideal is quite an understatement. It is heavy rain, it is thunderstorms, it is lightning around the circuit. And at this moment in time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure how long it's going to be before it gets any better. So please stick with us. And once we do have any news on track action, yes or no, we'll be able to come back to you as soon as possible. which caused it. Thankfully, obviously, both drivers are okay, but both cars obviously needing some repairs. That was the contact between the Faust Salon, Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren, and the Porsche of Carlo Curti. Due to the weather conditions, sadly, this session will not restart. So Article 31.1 will be applied from the regulations, and that will mean that the grid will be predetermined as per that article, I'd imagine. So that will mean that the first race, which is scheduled to get underway later on this afternoon, we'll be able to give you the grid order of that, I think, once we get to go live for that broadcast. So apologies to everyone watching who are expecting the qualifying session, but the weather at the moment is, winning in this battle of between the elements and us here at the circuit. The weather currently has the advantage: heavy rain, thunder, showers, and just about every other part of wet weather you can throw in as well. There is quite a bit, there's some standing water around the circuit as well. How much that will disrupt the other sessions, we'll have to wait and see. Already we're seeing all team managers of the Euro Formula Open Championship are being called to race control, so their session may also be affected as well, as it also could be for the International GT Open. So for now, from myself, Scott Woodward, and from all of us here at Circuit de Catalunya Barcelona, apologies, but unfortunately the weather is currently playing against us with this heavy rain. So hopefully we'll see you very shortly later on this afternoon, what will hopefully be a much drier first race of the weekend for the GT Cup Open Championship. But from all of us here, thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.